What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast. That is a proud part of the Euroset Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. Uh, I guess sad, depressedly, uh, just emotionally torn to bits. Ali, I am your host Numac, and we are uh, we are here post game of the San Francisco 49ers Green Bay Packers game as the Packers lose 24-21 in a one of the most heartbreaking losses I think we've had in quite some time.
Oh no.
And that is the voice of my lovely co-host Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how are you doing, buddy?
Obviously not great. It's not great when you factor in everything that we're about to go into. The fact that Packers ultimately had a shot to go to the NFC Championship game. And for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons, as we'll get into, they are not. And that's not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling, and not a feeling that I anticipated feeling at all tonight, really. And it makes it that much harder to swallow knowing that they were, one more stop, a field goal away from going to overtime. So many missed chances.
They were a
And
lot of things away from just
yes,
one of them going their way to breaking and being in that place to go to the NFC Championship game. And they got
yep,
none of them.
yep.
Oh man, I mean, I'm just trying to think of like literally everything that could have went their way. An interception. I mean, a what should we call it? A good spot on a fourth down play. Anything. Just I mean, even a kick going through
Oh
the
yeah.
uprights. But we'll get
A
to that.
possible house call on the first 49ers drive
Yep.
too. Like there were so many moments that we could turn to. That's the thing. This is what we cling to in losses. You don't cling to them in wins because you're
Mm-mm.
like, well, you had the result.
Yep.
The Packers had the process here tonight. They had everything, but I mean, we can go through the box score and play by play and stuff like that. But 21 points. I think not to play this game, but 24. Thinking or if you had told me that the Packers would have limited the 49ers to 24 points, I would have been like, so they had a chance to win this game. Like the defense, for all its flaws, and there's a lot to get into, they largely did their job.
Yeah. I think largely is the problem.
Largely is the problem because you're not going to quiet Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy, I still am undecided on if he's a good quarterback or not. I
I
have
don't I
many
don't
words.
I don't think that he's a bad quarterback, but I also don't think he's elite like some people make
He's
him
not
out
a
to be.
game changing quarterback.
I think he is a just fine quarterback that will probably lead them to a Super Bowl appearance this year and probably for years to come. This team is good.
I don't know about that. I ultimately think too, like this is a game that you hate to lose from a Packers perspective. This is a game that you, if I'm a 49ers fan, I do not feel good about how this game unfolded at all.
I
Part of
think
that
it's
is
just sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say part of that is they lost Debo Samuel on the opening drive, and for whatever reason, they just didn't really have that balance in their offense. Like obviously, take away one of the best players on their offense, of course, it's not going to be what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very scattershot where it's like okay, they would string plays together, then they can't convert a third down,
Nope.
or they get a break like Love's first pick, and I don't think they even score points on that drive
They
because
didn't. They didn't.
that was the missed field goal. I think unless I'm confused on my
Uh
drives.
the I believe that is right. I believe the or the Trey Greenlaw interception off the Tucker Craft pick was the blocked field goal for them. I suppose we could look, but let's see. Yeah,
They got here. Let me see.
where's the interception?
They got a field goal on that drive. So defense limited them to 3 points.
Got it. Yes, yes, you're right. In the second half, I don't know. It's it's very frustrating to talk about this, having it be so fresh. You made the great point pre-pod that their youth got to them, which I think says a lot when you look at the box score.
Yeah.
Jordan Love under 200 yards, 2 picks. Aaron Jones leads the way with 108 yards carrying. I think they said on the
Bless Aaron
broadcast,
Jones.
God bless Aaron Jones. I think they said on the broadcast that it's was a Packers record for most like either yards over a 5 game span or most games with 500 yards in a row or with 100
Most games with 100 yards in a row.
yeah. But then you look at the receiving, Romeo Doubs at 83 yards. The next highest is Jaden Reed with 35. Like that's he's not a veteran, but he's not a rookie, and that's kind of what it comes down to. So let's just start at the top with Jordan Love. I think that's the most obvious place to start with this. I think we'll
Yeah.
kind of just go offense defense throughout the entirety of the pod. But 21 to 34, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 194 yards as I mentioned. Doesn't take a sack, which is incredible against this front this defensive front, but shout out to the O line that way, but I think this game looked like the average Jordan Love game. It didn't look like the Jordan Love we saw the last 4 weeks of the season. It looked like middle of the year ish coming out of the bad break Jordan Love. He had some really nice throws. He was escaping the pocket really well sometimes, but he had some questionable decisions all night long that I think is good to it's good to be optimistic about going forward. But there was a lot of indecision, I think, in the second half of this game, particularly um, on the second to last drive, I believe it was. He tried to dump it off to Aaron Jones. He could have just ran for the first down instead of trying to dump it off to him to get the first down. I don't think that it's a like horribly bad play to a decision to make, but it's just one of those things that in a playoff game it matters, right? And so that was one of them, and then obviously the last interception, just one of his worst throws that we've seen since probably the Steelers game, where he just tried to force it, and that's the thing, right? Live to see another down, and he tried to force it and just marched down the field when they had time, they had timeouts. All they needed to do was get within Anders' field goal range, but Lord knows that that was a crapshoot. But that's what they need to do rather than trying to force it and score a touchdown.
Yeah, that I mean, the last interception obviously is the last image that we will all have of Jordan Love in his first year as a starter. And it's very easy to be like, well, he's playing hero ball. If you look at the coverage, there's no one open. And the only, actually, take that back. The only person I think is open is Luke Musgrave on the opposite sideline. So you're asking Jordan Love to make an equally dangerous throw across the field, across his body. Like I'm looking. Shout out to Kelp here. His point of barely touched the ball in the second half. If
Yeah,
you look at the drives after the Bo Melton or the Tucker Craft touchdown, um, first pick, that drive was a minute 41 seconds. Next offensive drive, 3 plays, 8 yards, a minute 34. Next offensive drive, obviously got a huge help from Aaron Jones with the 53-yard run.
yeah,
Ends it with the missed field goal, but that was only 3 minutes 19 seconds.
yeah.
That was your best play of the most explosive play too, obviously. And then the final drive, which we all know, 33 seconds and ended with a pick. I mean, it's fair. It's obvious that Jordan Love did not play to the standard that he had set for himself for the last couple of weeks. I thought that was kind of obvious going into the game based on the defense that they're facing.
What was kind
We
of
knew
obvious.
the that Jordan Love was just it was going to be tough sledding for Jordan Love compared to Dallas, compared to the teams that he had played to get to lead the Packers into the postseason.
I don't think that it was tough. It was. I didn't. I wasn't coming into this thinking it'd be tough sledding. I think it'd be hard. I still expected him to play at the level he's been playing at the last 4 weeks. Like not elite like the Cowboys game was, but enough to make it competitive, right? Which honestly they did. He had a decent game, just not a game that's worthy of winning a playoff game.
Yes. I think for me, knowing the way that the 49ers best defend and knowing I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I knew that Fred Warner and middle of the field plays were just not going to work. So how does Jordan Love operate? How do the Packers play a way that is kind of it's not their strong suit. It's stuff that they have developed over time,
Mm-hmm.
but you're relying the things that you're relying on from your young wide receivers, the things that they do really well at. They're kind of relying on checkdowns, a lot of the outside of the numbers plays, things that were working well when things were going smoothly. I mean, they were moving the ball down the field like with ease the
Mm-hmm.
whole first half. Like
Yep.
that, it's not. We will look at the second half and everything like that, but it's a whole. You got to look at all four quarters to come away with. I think there's a stat during the broadcast. There was like 25 plays in 49ers territory.
Yep.
They come away with six first half points.
Yep. It's
You know what I mean?
terrible.
Like there's things that they could have done a lot better that could have extended this game in overtime. Obviously, Anders Carlson missed field goal. We knew a moment like that was going to happen at some point. If
You
you're
had to know it. Like I
yes,
tweeted about it when he had the year he had. It just
yep,
wouldn't be it just wouldn't be the Packers season if at some point during this playoff run a miss didn't come at the literally the most inopportune time. And
and
they were thankful that they were up early last week, like big to Dallas because he had missed the extra point last week, and then he misses the most critical um, kick here to go up 7. And I'm not trying to be a dickhead. I'm really not. But I think about this, like his miss, and my mind immediately goes back to the end of training camp, the last practice before the last preseason game, when they gave him the kick to end practice and like go for it, end practice with a good kick, and he freaking missed it. And then they gave him another chance and he made it. Like that's just where my brain goes with this. Like they talked about all season long about him being so mentally tough and coming back from like some of like the valleys that he would experience as a kicker. That's all well and great, but I don't need the fucking valleys. Like you're not just not allowed to have them as a kicker when your
yeah.
team is at this level. You just can't. And I think we talked about it in the Discord. Like, has there ever been a really good kicker that's been bad their first year? Not really. They're kind of like quarterbacks
Oh,
in
I
the.
bet you dig. I bet you dig in there. There's probably some.
I mean, I bet you dig in, you find a couple, but like, I'm talking like the best kickers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lights out kicker like Justin Tucker,
I mean,
elite kicker.
right. I mean, even look at the fella, the guy in Dallas who was having a really good year. Um, Jake Moody had a
Brandon
really
Aubrey.
good. Yes. Jake Moody had a good year, and like just some of these kickers that you expect the world from when it comes down to it, and they do pretty well. Like I, Jake Moody gets a kick blocked, but I think that was one of his like only misses all year long. He didn't have too many missed, and
Yeah,
it just fucking kickers, man.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard the anecdote when it was after the missed field goal. They said on the broadcast that they asked like about
Oh, I heard
Lafleur.
it. Oh, I heard it.
Yeah,
It drove me. It made my brain hurt.
Lafleur says that he prays every time Anders goes out there to line up for a kick. And it's like that's not the confidence that you
No,
want.
no, you should be confident sending out your kicker. Like,
And that we've the thing is about that kick specifically, we have seen him miss from the left hash mark between 40 to 45 yards, extend that out to even below 50. That's his range that he's super
bad,
dicey.
bad.
He can hit long range kickers, like he can hit threes, he can hit layups, but he has no mid range game.
No,
Like
he
that is
doesn't.
what he is. And in a game where the elements came into play clearly, Brock Purdy was freaking having to re-grip the ball as plays are going on. Like it's one thing to see on TV. It's another thing to be out there live, like even in the stands and not even playing. then add on, oh, I'm a football player. I have to play in rain, and it comes with the territory. But yeah, I that was just a total sinker, and you know we're all over the place. But when you ask the defense to get one more stop after everything they have done today, and I don't care what this means about Joe Barry moving forward. We'll have those conversations for another day. We're talking about this specific game. The way that they played, the way that the front line down an edge rusher and Enigbari, they were riding Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith. Kenny Clark was out there, I think, all snaps. Devontae White got hurt, so we saw a lot more Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, who did fantastic. I thought they did a lot of good pressures. The defense did their job to put the offense in a position to win the game.
Strong agree.
And we'll get deeper into if people want to play the blame game. I'm not particularly like wanting. I don't have any desire to because I think this is it. There's not one person at fault here. I think this is a collective uh, look at how things can go wrong in so many different ways that it's not just like Anders, you missed a field goal. It's your fault. Yeah, if he had made the field goal, it would have gone to overtime. They could have still lost. Like
Mm-hmm.
we could still be talking about a loss after even in that scenario. So yeah, like I'm all over the place here, but I that's where I just kind of stand of defense did their job, offense. Jordan Love, I thought he had some great throws, some great looks, but when you look at the whole product, 21 of 34, 195 passing yards, two TDs, two picks. I think the key stat that I would say right now, 5.7 yards per pass or per completed pass. That's not what we expect from Jordan Love. I
No,
think last week he was throwing like 10
he was
yards
like 10.
per pass. So those explosive plays from the wide receivers were largely contained to the first half. Like Romeo had some good plays. Jaden Reed had a play or two like that, but 49ers secondary, they broke cover. They found ways to break their coverage, but they didn't find ways to break it consistently, and that was
Yep.
that was the tough part.
Anders Carlson on the year. 6 for 6 on field goals between 20 and 29 yards. 14 of 14 on kicks between 30 and 39. 4 of 8 between 40 and 48 or 49. And 3 of 5 from 50 plus. Like, say what you will. This is going to probably cause arguments. The reason this team got rid of Mason Crosby was because he couldn't hit long field goals.
Yes.
I'm not saying that keeping Mason Crosby wins them this game. I'm just saying that if you're going to replace him, maybe find a kicker that can do it. You know what I mean? Because
I,
he
I
can't.
to be fair though, I don't know if they even thought that this is a position that they would be in this
I
year.
I understand that, but you don't draft him for 1 year.
Oh, I agree.
And then that's counterintuitive to my point, but
Yes, I was just about to say that.
it just like,
I understand. I understand to be frustrated because
oh,
again,
that's putting it lightly.
I know. But what I'm saying, like any special teams gap, and again, this isn't a game where the Packers had the biggest special teams break uh, until then, with Jake
Yeah.
Moody
Hey,
getting the blocked field goal.
shut up. Well, are we not talking about the break of Eric Wilson recovering Keisha Nixon's
That
fumble?
too, yeah. They had multiple.
Shut
They had
up.
multiple. That's why he's a special teams captain right there.
Shout out
That's what I
Eric
keep saying.
Wilson. Low key,
But
briefly, before we get on, Eric Wilson had a good end of the year helping out. Like, he did just fine.
oh
Like, I want to give a man his
yes,
kudos when deserving. He deserves it. Go on.
yeah. But these mistakes, these things, these gaps that happen in the postseason, it we can see it from training camp. It's happening in games. Like that is kind of the Packers' MO with special teams. Is like these things just like bubble above the surface, then they go down, depending on how well the team is doing. And then when it matters most, like that's how games get swung. We saw it didn't matter ultimately, but Texas had 10 points. Their lone touchdown was a punt return today. You know what I mean? Like we talk about how close these teams were, and really like the Packers and 49ers were really close in how they both played. They left a lot of meat on the bone, and games could come down to just who kicked the field goal and who didn't. You know what I mean? Like it sucks, but that is what it is.
Yeah, it's certainly something. Like I don't know. I think we should go back to talk about something good. Aaron Jones, bless that man.
Yeah.
Bless that man. 108 yards and 18 carries. Like they are not in this game without him. He had another wonderful game. Like I really hope he can bring it next year. Um, if he comes back, I know the cap situation is a little messy, but just a really good end of the year from him and something that they truly needed. And I think that that's something to think about going forward into next season is that they need the run game as offense. Like they have to have some juice somewhere. And we'll talk about it way more in the offseason, but I just wanted to give kudos to Aaron Jones and because I'm a man of a brand, Emmanuel Wilson. I don't know what his role is going to be going forward, but he had a few decent runs tonight. The hurdle was the special highlight, good for him kind of thing. But I would like to see him as the second back next year, depending on what they do with AJ Dillon. That's just me.
Um, I don't think AJ Dillon's coming back, and
I would be suspect about that as well.
yes, I feel for him too personally. Like his season ended in a way that he didn't want it to. He didn't
Nope.
even get to
He didn't get to have a
finish.
say.
Yeah.
Honestly, an AJ Dillon in this game probably feels a lot better.
Oh
They
yeah.
probably run it with him on 3rd and 1, fourth and 1,
And
and
Lord
get it
knows there was a bunch of third and fourth and ones, especially with all the terrible spots that were tonight.
in the
But
rain too. Fuck! I didn't even think about his impact, and now I'm even more pissed.
yeah,
God damn it! Sorry for the swears, everybody. I feel like I should apologize for the amount of swearing I've been doing, but
I think
I'm
people have
upset.
to know this is coming. This is the territory.
I'm
It's a
upset.
Packers. It's a Packers playoff loss that they lost in the final minute of the game,
They did,
essentially.
yeah, yeah. This is an all too familiar feeling. This is we had two of those this game. I don't know about you. The Romeo Dobbs catch on the sideline in the first quarter was frame for frame Aaron Rodgers to Jared Cook in Dallas. The same exact throw, the same exact catch. Not the same exact situation, but it was the exact same throw. And that was very pretty. But then that was the all too familiar feeling, which I was like, hooray! As soon as they missed that fucking kick, I knew we were winning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I know. I I ultimately come down to it's Aaron Jones, that 53-yard run, man. That was like probably even after the Bo Melton touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
even after just how they had generally played. Like I thought even down being 7-6 at going into half, I was like, I feel confident. Like I was worried as hell about that opening drive for the 49ers coming out of the halftime. But getting a stop and then immediately responding with the score. Touchdowns changed the complexion of this game, obviously. But when Aaron Jones rattled off that 53-yard field, or not 53-yard field goal, Lord knows maybe he would make it.
Man, if he could kick
50,
53-yard field goals, he'd be the MVP. He'd be the MVP of this
he'd be
team.
playing until he's like 60. Um, when he rattled off that run, I was like, this might be it. Like that is where we were. That is where I was. I know probably a lot of people weren't because I just this
Are
is
you
the team that
are you saying it? Like it?
yeah.
Yeah, why you gotta make me sad?
I'm just saying that run literally got them over midfield. You're thinking, oh, they should be they should score this drive.
Oh no no
I
no no
don't
no!
know.
Your it and my it are different.
He
I
got to the 37. He got to the 37-yard line. Then Eric Armstead got a neutral zone infraction immediately. So basically on the 32.
Your it and my it were different. I thought you were saying you were calling it a career for Aaron Jones.
No,
That's what I was
no, no,
saying. I
no.
was like, why you got to make me sad like that?
How dare you? I will never say that. No, I'm just saying. I just felt like this weight lifted off of me, of like they are gonna do this. They're gonna do this, and then
Oh no, no! I had all the
no.
stress and anxiety on my shoulders the entire game. Nothing.
To yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say to Romeo Dobbs, that guy. I had a lot of problems with him during the regular season. He's a playoff baller.
He and Pat Connaughton are the Office meme with Pam, where it says, "Show me the difference in these two pictures," and it's the same picture. Drives you bonkers during the regular season, but by golly, if they don't show up during the postseason, because we talked all season about how Romeo Dobbs needs to stop double catching the ball. Didn't see it at all in the last 2 weeks. None
No,
whatsoever. Solid hands. He had the one bobble today that, but like it's raining. I'm
it
not
was
gonna fault
pouring.
him. Yeah, I'm not faulting him for that. And that was the
Yeah.
only one we saw where like, hey, maybe just make sure you catch that ball that time cleanly. That was the only thing where I was like keeping an eye on it kind of thing.
Yeah. There was a great profile by Tyler Dunn of Go Long, the Substack, today about Romeo Dobbs. So I read it before the game, and it got me even more hyped. I don't know. Again, maybe we'll have to do like a future power rankings, kind of like with all these building blocks that the Packers have already assembled. But he really was Love's favorite. I mean, 83 out of 194 yards that Love had went to Dobbs. He saved his bacon a lot. He really, like, out of the plays, and that's the other thing too. I thought Jordan Love, until probably the final two drives, I thought he played so well with under pressure. Like that is kind of, he can play that, the Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. I can do make plays out off platform, rolling out of the pocket, trying to see an open field and make tough throws to get that point, to get to that point where you can do that obviously consistently is the big key. I mean, they went back to their bread and butter of getting a huge PI call that changed. You know, you're muted.
Best play of the book, baby.
Exactly. It was their best passing play for like the first third of the year. But I think that we'll see the progression and how he can get better as a deep ball thrower and just be in those situations. Like that again, that is the saving grace of being where the Packers are and turning expectations on their head right now
Yeah,
is they're young, they don't know what they're doing, and that's a benefit and it's also a curse because
it's a
you're
big
experiencing
curse.
it all for the first time.
Um, I had another point I wanted to make about somebody and I had forgotten it. I guess in general, the offense is looking up. I just wish this ride was still going, right? I think we all wish
Oh
that they
yeah,
would have won because like they were playing with the most confidence. And if they come out of this game, they are riding so high going into Detroit or into Tampa, wherever they would have been going. And like that just is the make
Detroit.
for something special. That I know, I know. I think that's just the make of something special, and it's just another tough loss to the Niners yet again. Like it's I don't really hate the Niners, but man, I
Oh,
kind
I
of
hate
hate
them.
I hate
I
the
hate them.
Niners.
I hate them more than the
Here
Bears. I hate them more than the Vikings.
that's not even close for me.
Yeah.
Here's my
Because
thing.
they're not good.
I,
That is the ultimate thing.
nope,
I
nope.
am watching this. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. I'm telling you right now.
They may not, but that doesn't mean they're not good.
Well, you know what I'm
You are
I'm
doing
playing a character.
you're doing ranks culture.
But But I'm looking that they gave every chance to blow this game. This is
Hmm.
not a game that I would be proud of. They won, and you have to win these kind of games to
Yeah,
get to the Super Bowl.
yeah.
I understand. I think the
Well, they're going
stat
to be
is
in the same.
now
They're going to be in the same spot they were last year, right? And
yes.
this is to your point. If they are not as good as you believe they are, they will fall next week. But
I
we'll see.
I think the stat now is one. Kyle Shanahan is 1-30 when trailing going into the fourth quarter.
Love being the one. How many times have we had that scenario? Too
I
many.
know.
Like I don't feel as bad as I do. Like someone had said, I forget who it was, about 2014 and like that game, and
It's not even close.
I agree. That's what I was saying.
It's
It's
not
like,
even close to that. It's not close to the last 49ers loss. It's not
nah.
even close to
Do you want to know
losing the
something crazy? Do
49ers.
you want something crazy?
What?
The last 49ers loss, I knew they were going to lose. Like
Yes.
I sat on my couch with my choice of drink in hand at the beginning. I'm like, they're not going to win this. They're just not. I just didn't have
Yep.
any confidence whatsoever, and I was right. Unfortunately, I told you guys all season long that this entire season is gravy, working up to really building towards something special. And I came in, I thought they were going to lose on the last pod, and then here I sat all day long. I'm like, I'm nervous, but they might go freaking do this thing. And I felt like good. I felt real good.
I want people to chase that feeling. There's so many Packer defeatists. I'm gonna
Me!
get
I am a
arrogant.
Packers
I don't.
defeatist.
But that's what happens. I understand, and we'll go through those losses with the next 8 months of our lives.
Just
But
too
they're
long.
so we refer to these losses all the time, and I get it. It's part of what happens when you win as many games as the Packers do, and they put themselves in a chance to play for the Super Bowl. And if you don't get to the Super Bowl or don't win the Super Bowl, yeah, we're gonna lament those chances. This team didn't care about that. They did not care about that. So even if it happened, and I'm like contradicting things I've already said, but I'm just saying, people got to believe more. This whole year was to wipe away a slate that had gone bad. The well had been poisoned. I don't care about who played for the game for this team pre this year. I am a Packers fan reborn. Okay, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers. I don't care about them anymore. I'm putting names to the faces. I'm just saying, just believe. Does it suck to lose this game? It does.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's horrible.
Oh, I
It
hate
would
it.
have been. It would have. We would have said if they had gotten pancaked by the 49ers, we would have said, "Oh, well, the 49ers are a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
and the Packers got run over by it."
That's why this
That
hurts
didn't
more.
happen. This team is better than their record indicates,
Yep.
and as we move forward, they're going to be held to a higher standard. And what we're talking about right now is not going to like we're not going to apply to that like kid gloves like you guys can do it. You know what I mean? Like that, all that kind of stuff. But I just want people to believe again. This whole year was about believing again.
It was.
It wasn't about the everything else that has happened over the last pretty much the decade, pretty much since the Super Bowl, last Super Bowl win.
Kelp, I love you, buddy. We got a negative Nancy in chat saying believe in what with way too many or question marks. A coach that can't win anything or a kicker
That the
that
Packers
sucks.
can win, that the Packers can get to where this is about going to the Super Bowl. It's about
Yes.
yeah,
And I would be remiss to say believe in what? You can believe in Jordan Love. You can
yes,
believe in Dontavion Wicks. You can believe in Bo Melton. You can believe in Jaden Reed. You can
Aaron
believe
Jones.
in Aaron Jones. You can believe in Luke Musgrave. You can believe in Tucker Kraft. There are a lot of things to believe in on this team.
Yeah,
Where Kelp and I come from as Packers defeatists is that it sucks, and you know this. It sucks having your heart ripped out of your chest like that scene in I think it's Indiana Jones. Adam's gonna yell at me. Where he grabs his heart out of his chest and rips it out. It's
yeah.
I forget what the
Or Dumb and Dumber.
Sure. And
That's
it's
actually C for Dumb Dumber.
is it okay?
Yeah.
It just sucks having to like because I think where you and I differ, Jordan, as a Packers defeatist and a Packers optimist, is that I believe that they're going to win this game. Like going into it now, like before, like after the pod and then mulling over, I'm really thinking they have a chance. Seeing them fight their way through the first half, seeing them take a commanding lead in the second half, and I'm like, they can do it. They just have to get out of their own way the rest of the way. Just keep doing your thing. And then I believed this game, Jordan, and then it got snatched away from me. And
I
it's been snatched away from me, Jordan, so many times, so
but I
many
don't care
times.
about those times anymore.
I know, but
Look
it's hard.
forward.
It's hard.
Don't look back.
But it's
Look
Jordan. The
forward.
game ended less than 45 minutes ago. I
Well,
hurt.
I know, no. I'm saying that's not what I'm talking about is the losses before this game.
No, I know. And like
Yeah,
I'm not trying to like compare this team to any other teams, but this
yeah,
loss hurts the same as most of the other losses in the playoffs that I've had experienced or we as a fan base have experienced. And that's
yeah.
why we're like this.
I agree. I just also think nothing feeds the. I'm a former Packers defeatist myself. After the championship game loss to the Seahawks, that was it. That was whatever they accomplished in the future. I didn't think that they would ever reach the pinnacle. That is why when they hired LaFleur to, I mean, we're not even talking about the game anymore. We're talking about past things. That was again a wipe the slate clean kind of thing. But things just continued on, and maybe there was another source of all this stuff. What I'm trying to say is, yes, it sucks. This feeling sucks right now. It sucks after feeling the highs of last week, scoring 48 points on the Cowboys, thinking that they're going to fire Mike McCarthy, and they're not now.
Oh, it's so funny.
And it's, yeah. But doing things that we never thought, we didn't expect of this Packers team. We didn't expect them to get to the playoffs at various points of the season. We didn't expect them to beat the Cowboys at various points of the week leading up to that game. We didn't expect them to be in the game with the 49ers and lead significantly, probably more than the 49ers did throughout this entire game. I mean, I'm looking at the box score again, too. The 49ers had one red zone trip the entire game, and that was the last drive
Yeah.
or last meaningful drive because they
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah,
knelt.
they nailed it down.
What
Yeah.
I'm saying is all the things that we didn't expect this Packers team could do, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks that it ended. We can say it ended prematurely, but we can't say that. We can't say that at all. Like
Right.
that, I don't know. Like it's such a weird year to evaluate, and that's why I think a lot we'll have a lot of fun conversations of like probably reflecting the best memories of this season. But like there are large portions of this where like just end it, get the highest draft pick possible, and now we're like, damn it, they could have gone to the NFC Championship game if kicker kicked a field goal and blah blah blah. Like I I I don't know.
I think we should talk defense.
Yes.
I know like that entire segment would have been good as an end cap to the entire pod, but we didn't talk about half the team. Uh I thought to your point earlier, the defense played, I think, pretty well. I know I'm watching for Kelp's message here because I know he's probably going to disagree with us in the chat. But I agree with you that they played pretty well. If you're holding San Francisco to 24 points, that's a win, frankly. And what they really didn't what really didn't happen is that they just didn't capitalize on all of the advantages they put them and the advantaged. I can't think right now. The advantageable positions. That's not a word. I apologize. The good positions they put themselves in to come back around. They just didn't capitalize on them. Like we said, they didn't intercept
Yes.
the ball on two separate occasions. They got the benefit of
I could count
multiple
like
drops.
four.
Yeah. Well, two that they had
Purdy
their hands
sucked.
on. Um, they they didn't capitalize on like multiple drops on second down, like second and 10. They had Um, I'm trying to find the team stats here. Um, for some reason, I'm just not looking in the right place. The Niners are 10 of 16 on third down. 10 third down conversions, Jordan. That's where the rub is for me. Like
Yeah,
they had so many opportunities on so many drives to stop them in like punt situations on third down and medium or third down and long, and they couldn't get off the field. Like there's the Jawan Jennings skies for the ball on
oh
third and
boy,
10.
it looked like David Tyree catching
Yep,
that ball at Super Bowl, whatever number that was.
41, I think it
42.
is. I think it's 41 or 42. Um, because 2007, so it was 41 because it was 4 years before the Packers won theirs. Um, or 42. I don't know. Doesn't matter. That one, and then like big chunks from Christian McCaffrey on second down when they stopped him on first down. Like they held Christian McCaffrey to under 100 yards, and he had that 40-yard touchdown run, and then the touchdown at the end. Like it sucks that this game was so close because they did everything right until the last drive. And that's just the most frustrating part about it, right? Like we don't know what Joe Barry's future is. We'll talk about it in the future or like in the off season, but
As soon as this week, probably, maybe.
I yeah, maybe if it's rumored that his contract is up, we'll know, but we'll see. I just it's just so tough because the to bring it back around, they didn't capitalize on their advantageous positions. That's what I was looking for. Advantageous of the interceptions, but I think the biggest thing is that they were pressuring Brock Purdy so much throughout the game,
Oh my God.
and they only got home. I think it was what twice they got sacked. They have him sacked
I'm
for.
seeing one total
So
sack that was divvied up between Kenny Clark and Preston Smith, but they
so
got
then
tons
so
of
then it was
pressures.
that sack, and then they sacked him beyond the line of scrimmage, so it was just a run. That was the one where he
Yeah.
like fell for a yard, but um, I mean, I'm gonna be curious to see what the pressures are because there's just there's just so many opportunities for them to get home that like and they once the clamp started getting tightened on them and this game became real that they could win it, they started falling apart. They lost contain on the edge so many times in the second half. Purdy scrambled for a big first down towards
Get to the
in that final
six.
drive to get to the six, which would set up the Christian McCaffrey go ahead touchdown. Like they just weren't able to get home just so many times, and they were there, and that's just a good job on the Niners offensive line of holding up the defensive line. But I just, and that's probably partially Devontae Wyatt going out too. Like there's a lot of factors in this game that again we talked about earlier that led them to just um not pulling it off.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull some random numbers. 5.6 yards per play, uh, 356 total yards. Christian McCaffrey, I believe, had 98 rushing yards. Add in 30, so 128 total yards today. Obviously, two touchdowns. The backbreakers for me, obviously, the last drive, Purdy scramble. Really, that was like, well, that's ball game. It also didn't help that I understood. I could see both sides of the coin of LaFleur keeping all three timeouts because they had a lot of time to come back. I also thought at that point, we've seen Jordan Love try to execute final 2 minute drill situations before, and he's not there yet.
That's a growing point. That's a growing
Yep.
point.
Um, the biggest backbreaker for me was that Kittle touchdown, easily by far. They had done, I think the play before too, they had done just like enough to like get off the field and think like, oh, like they can limit them from scoring points again. I'm trying to find the drive right now. Um, but Darnell Savage loses, uh, not loses, but tries to play physical with George Kittle, which is probably the most idiotic thing they could do. And um, he immediately just breaks off for an easy touchdown into the end zone. Like Darnell Savage had a lot of woof
He had
plays
a tough game.
between the drop pick on the opening drive, the Kittle coverage, um,
The
Christian
Christian
McCaffrey's
McCaffrey first touchdown.
first touchdown, probably the biggest run of the game for him too. Um, he
Remember,
was in the open field, and the guy's allergic to open field tackling. Like I don't understand it at all,
this
and
team
just gets
is this team is,
what?
is this team is allergic to open field tackling.
Yes, this team is, but Darnell Savage also embodies it too
Yeah,
because
which is
he
which
is
is really frustrating from a fan perspective because Darnell Savage I think had a good year. Would you agree with that? Like I think he had a pretty decent year. I mean you can mull it over and I'll keep chatting, but
decent on the whole. But I don't. I'm trying to think of like I'm sure if we go through every game, his grade will be really interesting. Probably
I agree. But the my point being is that I think Darnell Savage is a great like second safety, which is a I know it's weird because the safeties have different roles in the defense, but I feel like if he just has some responsibility lifted off him by an actually elite safety, he'd be a lot better. And
Mr. Biles doesn't do it for you.
oh my god, dude, like there is no bigger swing player than Jonathan Owens. He's either I making you
Really?
he's either making you tear your hair out or he's making some really good plays. There's no middle in between with him. Like he had that really good tackle
I
on
feel
John.
like that's Darnell Savage.
No, no, because I think Savage's baseline is a lot higher than Jonathan Owens is. You know what I mean? Like I think his baseline is a lot higher than Jonathan Owens is
Apples and oranges, but
apples
I
and oranges. But the point
yeah.
being is that like it stinks for Savage to have a game like this because he had such a good game last week, and I have since forgotten my point and I apologize. But oh, your Kittle point that was the backbreaker. I disagree. That touchdown put them up 7-6. Like that was in the what the first
First,
quarter?
it was a
No,
second
it was
quarter
second quarter because the first quarter ended 3-0.
yeah,
They were well in control of being able to come back from that, and they did. Like this is where getting caught up in the minutia of a football game is really hard not to do because it's just so tough to look at that play like, yeah, that's a horrible play. Like, great job, Donald Savage. You love a touchdown. Teams are gonna score the football, right? Like that's just going to happen. You can't blame a guy for one play and having it be a bad one because like at the end of the day, George Kittle is um, a really good receiver or I'm sorry, a really good receiving tight end, and he's going to get open regardless. Like I talked about it in the pregame or the preview pod that George Kittle has the opportunity to go for 152 touchdowns. Like he's just that kind of difference maker player, and so I'm not so much concerned um, with that play. It stinks. It's whatever. I think what's worse that Anthony Johnson Jr. bit on a curl route to Ayuk down in the flat instead of going deep with George Kittle. That's a worse mistake
yep.
than Savage getting just not blown by, but getting worked in that
So
route.
1-on-1.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have made it a 2-on-1 versus a 1-on-1. You don't get beat with the big play, which is the basis of Joe Barry's entire offense, and instead take the dink and dunk under in the flat. And so I'll push back that that's the backbreaker. I do agree that it's tough to see, but at the end of the day, that one score was just one of their three touchdowns, and I think
That
I'm trying
wasn't
to
by Christian McCaffrey.
right, and I think like honestly that's just fine. Like I really don't want to be reductive.
But that's what my point that I'm trying to make with that is Brock Purdy, and maybe I just have this axe to grind because I just don't think he's good. I really don't.
You might have the extra grind. You hate
I just
like
don't think I
meddling
think
quarterbacks.
he's yes.
Tommy DeVito, Baker Mayfield, and
Yes, I
Brock
lump
Purdy are
them
your
together.
bugaboos.
I do. I lump them together. The thing is that Christian McCaffrey, you did to hold him to 128 yards on his face is like, okay, like
Yeah.
two touchdowns, not so okay. But that was the second biggest play that the 49ers had in terms of yardage,
Yep.
the Kittle touchdown.
Yep.
Purdy could not throw down the field
No,
consistently.
I think losing
And
Debo is a big part of that. Not that
it is
Debo,
because it,
not that Debo's a big down the field threat, but he opens the under the middle part of it a lot, and then opens up the long passing yards for Ayuk, Kittle, and the rest of them. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and they frustrated like Kittle, like outside that catch, like was largely reined in. He had that key drop on the second to last drive that hurt them too. Ayuk was, I mean, 3 catches, 32 yards, no touchdowns. They're big playmakers, the guys that we feared the most. Outside of McCaffrey and the Kittle touchdown, we we thought of these guys that could make explosive plays, like just reel them off, like even on just one drive alone. Packers, again, they largely did their job and they gave ample opportunity for the offense to do their job. And it's a yin yang situation. Not you can only be out on the field so many times. And then when you miss a field goal and then they have to punt, or the was it the pick then? Is that what it was? I can't remember.
For when?
Everything's bleeding together.
What are you
Maybe it was
talking?
after the field goal. The go ahead touchdown for the 49ers. I think it was after the field goal.
It was after the field goal miss. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when that happens, it's like, okay, yeah, like I don't really anticipate them getting the stop when they need it most, as you mentioned. Even though Packers had dominated or had the edge in time of possession by 30 minutes and 19 seconds, and 49ers had 29 minutes and 41 seconds. That's
Yeah,
closer
it
than you
stinks.
thought.
Yeah.
It is.
Um, Brief interruption. Go follow us anywhere you can find us at Numac is known at Jordan Tresky on Twitter. At Packers GSPN is the Pod's Twitter account, and go subscribe to us on Spotify or follow us and all that good stuff on Spotify. Or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd appreciate it obviously because we're gonna have a lot of off season content. But getting back to it, I think what is important here, I shouldn't say important, is I don't want to clue in on like all the players too much, but I don't know what to do with Devondre Campbell. He got kind of worked tonight. He didn't play his best game. Had the drop of the interception last week. Not that we're trying to dog on him, but like I don't know. It's just tough. Yeah, I think he
He
go.
he looked a step slow, and honestly, that's going to happen when you play the 49ers. Like
Yeah,
you are your brain has to work in coverage mode, zones, who you got, how do you diagnose all the motions that they play, like, but I thought he processed things well. I think physically he just was a step slow.
yeah. Which
And it's
which
hard.
is hard. Which
It's
is hard coming off of an injury last season. Then he was injured earlier in this season. Like he had a tough year health wise, and so looking a bit slow is going to happen at some point.
and
But
Quay Walker was going through cramps. He missed some snaps too. Thought Isaiah McDuffie, like, he looked good in the
I
spell. I think he even made
I
that good
really
play
like
where
Isaiah
he.
McDuffie, dude. I
I do
think he
too. Like,
is.
I don't know what he. I don't know if he's just like a rotation guy, but he made a good kind of physical chip to throw Kittle off his route, and Purdy sailed it. He threw it anticipating where he was going to be in his route, and it just there was no one there. But yeah, like again, those are the positions that we're looking at the second level defense for this Packers team. And as much as I've been saying, hey, they kept their playmakers in check, it doesn't come without like a lot of strenuous work. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like they're being spread all over the field, and by the end of it, I thought Campbell, like the angles that he was taking were just kind of really poor by the end of it, especially
yeah,
in coverage. Like, you know, I don't know if you can do what you do and expect things
yeah,
to change when you're just slower than the guys you have to cover.
yep. Going back to the point I was going to make, I had forgotten it, but I now remembered it. Talking about their points scored and everything, and how that was just one of their touchdowns they had to give up to George Kittle. Um, but I'm looking at their season. This is the least amount of points the Niners have scored in a win. They had not
I
scored.
believe it.
They had not scored less than 4 touchdowns. I'm sorry. They scored 27 points in week 17. but before that against the Commanders. Before that, they had not scored less than 4 touchdowns again. I can't read. Apparently, they scored 27 against the Bucks in week probably like 10 or something. But on the whole, they're scoring about 4 touchdowns a game in wins, and it took 3.5 quarters for them to get to 20 to what 17 even, and then they get finally to even closer to their average in the last minute. Like it's a good job by the defense, and I just can't be mad at them, Jordan. I don't think I can, like, because
No,
you can ask the front forward to get home a little more often. You can ask the linebackers to be better in coverage against these guys. You can ask the secondary to catch the ball. But when it comes down to it, and Anders, I'm fucking sorry, but if he makes that kick, it's they go to overtime, and
they could
that
still lose the game.
they can still lose the game. But then
Then
there's
we might be
more
talking about the
evidence.
defense and the driver line.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
entirely the point, right? You can only keep a team like this under wraps for so long. I hate
yep.
prevent as much as the next guy or the next fan. I should my apologies. But it's hard to keep a team with Christian McCaffrey, usually Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Brandon
You
Ayuk, and
your mention of Jawan Jennings on our preview pod, I was like, oh yeah, like he has been good.
he's
Guy
good.
stepped up. He is good.
He's good.
He's just on
Like
the 49ers and is buried under.
fourth in the
Yeah.
options that you want to throw to. Yeah.
Yep.
I know he's good because I had George Kittle in fantasy and Debo Samuel and Juwan Jennings is catching touchdowns in the regular season because he's good. Because he's good.
Yeah.
And so that's just the thing, right? Is that when you have these high powered offenses, it's really hard to keep them under wraps for the entire game. And when they do, those are the standout games that you applaud as a fan. But this isn't on the defense um,
No.
as a loss. It's frankly like a whole team loss. Every facet of this team could have done something a little better um, to ensure a win, but they just didn't.
Yeah. It sucks. It sucks. I would rather have it be this way than a Brandon Bostic situation because I think
Did you see he
that's
was
sort of
in he was in Packers Twitter sphere last week?
no,
He posted a picture of
no.
himself either in his living room or in his bed with a big cheese head on after they beat Dallas. I was like, oh, time has passed. Like I can accept you now.
I've always he was, but that's part of the thing is that he was a scapegoat for a systemic loss,
Oh yeah, yeah, he absolutely was.
and and he did not deserve that as much as everybody looks at that play as the game changing play. But
Yeah,
for me, I'd rather have it be this way where we can point to multiple things on both ends of the ball, even in special teams,
right.
and be like, this is why they didn't win. This is why
Yep.
they're not going to the NFC Championship game, and it sucks. But I this is a rare Packers season where we can have perspective and say we didn't anticipate them even getting here in the first
No, we did
place.
not. No, we did not. Um, quiet game from Carrington Valentine. He kind of fell off once the playoffs kind of came. Hopefully, he can do some work in the offseason and become a real piece because he's good. Um, we'll see about Corey Valentine. He was I didn't really see him much, but with Jair playing, he didn't really expect him to get a lot of run. Um, and I think that's it. I think that's it for most of the players on the defense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else. I thought Lucas Van Ness played
I think he played good.
really well.
Yeah, he had a
I was
good hold on Chris McCaffrey on second down. That's not in the first.
I was very worried about the edge rotation, especially how they elevated Keyshawn Banks, who I thought looked pretty good in preseason. He's kind of a guy that I would be interested in seeing in a few months' time. But I was just very worried that they wouldn't have the legs with the a short rotation like that. And they got after that offensive line. They got after it. They for how we have talked about the things like this can come and go in Packers games and especially in losses. They fought like hell. They made Purdy feel them, and it's part of why I have a lot of doubt about what this 49ers team can ultimately do. But credit to Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Luke Van Ness, Colby Wooden had the block kick and a great pass rush too, at least a couple. Carl Brooks, like those guys really got after it today, and that's a huge reason why they only let up 24 points.
We talked about it all season long. This team's draft class this past season was really good, really good. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, there's optimism going forward, especially with, like you said, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, excuse me, and all the guys on the Lucas Van Ness, and all the guys on the offensive side of the ball. I think now as we get further away from, we're talking about it, we're talking through it, it's stinging less. Like I'm happy with the season, obviously. I mean, we got to beat the Bears twice and knock the Cowboys out of the playoffs. How can you not be happy with the season, right?
Yeah.
And so, and plus, I had a great time watching Cowboys fans get clowned on, and for the entire week, it was a lot of fun. Um, it just, now looking towards briefly to the offseason, I want to see some notable changes, like, or notable steps to improving what's wrong. They need a new safety. They need a safety high in the draft. They need probably a backup running back at some point, depending on what they do with Emmanuel Wilson, AJ Dillon, and Aaron Jones for that matter. They need, I think, another middle linebacker to go with Quay. Like, I think that's pretty
They
obvious.
might need another wide receiver.
I don't know if they need. You think they need a wide receiver? You think they need a one?
No, I don't necessarily think that, but I think
Who they can't lose anybody.
they can't. But there are questions.
Who's your question mark? Briefly.
I mean, long term, we have to wonder about Christian Watson's
Yeah.
hamstring. Bo Melton, a
I
great.
think
I mean, he's
I think they'll
he's an
draft a wide
unsung
receiver,
hero.
but I don't think they'll draft
Yeah,
one
yeah.
high.
No, I think that's a lower end, but it's not as high of a priority. But Bo Melton's an unsung hero, but is that sustainable? I don't know. Like, I think he's good.
I think that's sustainable. I think that's sustainable. His footwork is so good. We'll have this entire talk in the offseason.
Of course.
I would like to do positional grades and like
Oh yeah,
stuff
we're
like that,
definitely gonna do that.
obviously. So that's a great offseason discussion. So we'll see.
I ultimately the biggest win about any draft thing is that we're not talking about a quarterback.
That's right. That's right. Not talking about quarterback. Jordan Love had a pretty amazing season given the circumstances. Um, got his feet under him. Was really showing the NFL and its fans the what he can really do. And I think there's a lot of people around the league that even weren't fans of the Packers that really took notice that, like, hey, this guy can play, dude. This guy can play. And I don't think we talked a lot about how, like, the ball was ready, like, it was ready for Jordan Love too. He didn't have a lot of misses, but there were some misses here and there that could be attributed to some rain, to some slickness. So, all that's being said, it's optimistic for next year, right?
Absolutely.
It still hurts. We're still grieving, but I think we wake up on a Sunday and feel a little better about it. It's gonna be a long off season because I'm very
Also,
excited for next year. But
I forgot to even mention this. We won't have to talk about whether a quarterback is going to be in Green Bay or not, or if he's going to retire, or if he's going to
yeah,
be in a darkness retreat.
do, this off season is going to be much more fun than last year's
It's
off
that
season.
these are how off seasons are supposed to
It's
be.
supposed to be handled. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
We're even going to be able to talk about a Love extension because that's going to happen.
We won't have to talk about Pat McAfee.
Thank
Thank the
God.
Lord.
Thank God.
Thank the Lord that we won't have to talk about Bro Rogan.
um, I got a text from my my wife during this pod, and she says, "You're screaming 200% louder than usual." And I said,
That's how you know it. You felt it in your heart.
all caps, I'm emotional. she she had a little bit of perspective for me. She goes, just to put it in perspective, the Packers have made the playoffs in 22 of your 28 years of life. You will be okay. We'll be okay.
Your wife is a believer.
That's right.
Believe, and
That's right.
not in a Ted Lasso way. Just believe, guys.
That's right. All right, folks, that does it for us. Thank you so much to everybody who stopped by and check out our live stream. Probably the last one until the draft when we get we get to have draft fun again. Shout out Steve Kime. So, again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, go check out the podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Um, all the info for the Eurostep Podcast Network can be found at gspn.info. Links to all the pods, including uh, the Eurostep with Ty and Rohan, Win in Six with Jordan and Adam, and Cruising for a Bruising, as the Brewers are slated to come up pretty soon and start their season with Adam and Andrew, and then Adam and Andrew as well with Captured in Celluloid. Why did I call it that? Make time for this. Like I can't believe it's dead named. Make time for this. But alas, go check out all those pods at gsp.info. Follow us. We're gonna have a big slate of off-season pods coming up for you guys. Might take a week break just to take a breather, process our
Unless
emotions.
unless a big news forces us
Forces us
to
to pod, yeah.
yeah.
So, all that being said, be sure to, like I said, go check out the pod on your podcast platform of choice. That way you can get all the content, including grades for this year, going through the cheese board, um, draft prep talk as we look into who we're going to try and look at for prospects that the Packers might be drafting at what I think it's going to be
They
20
are locked in on 25th.
at 25, so not too bad. They got 11 picks this year. It's a lot of picks.
A
So,
lot of picks. I think five in the first top 100 too.
yep, that's right. So, we shall see. But yeah, be sure to go check out all the pods, gsp.info. It's going to be a lot of fun in these next 9 months. Sad.
It's gonna. Again, this is gonna be a way more fun off season, especially to start,
Yeah,
because that Rodgers crap went into
went
April,
into the draft. Yeah, which is not fun.
so we won't have to talk about that. We won't have to talk about that.
That's
We get
right.
to talk about Jordan Love. We get to talk about Matt LaFleur. We get to talk about Brian Gutekunst. We get to talk about all the guys that showed flashes and did great things in their rookie years. Things are looking up.
That's right. And for all of you listening, thank you for supporting us for the last 4 months and counting. It's not counting anymore. It's pretty bookended here, but we had a great year, a great season. I had a lot of fun. I know Jordan had a lot of fun. Thank you all for listening to us and supporting us and chatting Packers with us because that's what we love to do and that's why we do it. So that is all for us, folks. Thank you again. Our sincerest graciousness and thanks and all that good stuff. So, and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.